episode 6 of Press Steam to Start, our awesome podcast. We talk about gaming and Linux and Steam Deck and all kinds of cool stuff. My name is Gardiner. This is my friend Jackson. How you doing this morning, Jackson?
Tired, but okay. I'm, didn't go to bed early enough, and now I'm just kind of tired, but we're all good. We're doing it.
Yep.
Full stop.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you, man. I had a whole large Dunkin' cold brew this morning to try and get ready for this.
Oh yeah.
So today, what's on the docket today? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so finally, Dead by Daylight is now playable on Steam Deck, officially confirmed by PR of the company. Steam Deck now has over Vegeta Meme 9000 playable and verified games. Valve releases top games in April. Humble Bundle Choice for May has been announced. Steam Input on Desktop Overlay brings virtual menus.
Ooh.
Tears of the Kingdom leaks 10 days early, and Arcane Redfall, more like Arcane Red Falls from Grace.
Uh-oh.
Shoot me for that one. All more coming up.
Nice. All right, let's get into this.
Yeah,
my friend, what have you been playing this week?
Oh man, bad news. Not a ton.
Same.
I started the week off last week when I hit render to edit this podcast. I ran out the door to go see the Super Mario Brothers movie finally. So that was
yeah.
That's my review. The Peaches, best thing in the world. Jack Blacksteel's show.
Oh, of course.
Trying to play some more Resident Evil Village, and we just got into Castle Dimitrescu. However, the game crashes a lot. And I don't know if we're playing on my desktop with Linux, so I don't know if it's going to be more stable if I switch over to Windows, but it's getting kind of annoying to jump back and forth of just like, all right, cool, we've got an hour in and suddenly crash. All right, we've got 30 more minutes in, crash.
Yikes.
So what we have been doing that's a little bit easier is, like I had mentioned last week, Pokemon Infinite Fusion, where I had gotten my partner to play. I decided, hey, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And when I started my own game, I saw that there was a randomize feature. And I said, neat, let's do it. And instead of pressing on, it brings up a menu with 5 or 6 different toggles. And when I hit on for one of them, it then brings up another menu for like 5 or 6 toggles.
Wow.
So my brain went, and I hit everything to on. So what had happened was I started the game. All the starters were random, of course, which was neat. But then all of them were fused. And then I started going through the game, and every Pokemon was fused. And not a single one was a normal Pokemon, because when you have, 175,000 possible combinations, the chances of you seeing any of the original Pokemon, very minuscule. So I said, you know what? Let's dial this back a little bit. Start it over again. So things are mostly just random, and the fusions I have to kind of like, they come up far less. So a lot more normal Pokemon. However, as my partner tells me, I am the worst at Pokemon because I don't play with types. No. That simple rock, paper, scissors game of water beats fire, fire beats grass.
Yeah.
I don't play by those rules. I mash the A button regardless of what's on the field and hope for the best.
So what you're telling me is you play 4D Pokemon.
Oh, 4D Pokemon, where it involves me running back to the Poke Center every three steps because all of my Pokemon died to one Pokemon. Because I suck at the game. Which is going to make it interesting when I try to do like Pokemon Emerald Rogue or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mostly all I've been playing. Gardiner, how about you?
So, I went to Goodwill, I think it was last
Yeah.
weekend, and I found a Rock Band drum set
Oh, nice.
and a Rock Band Stratocaster for my Xbox 360. And I
Nice.
pulled that bad boy out of storage and hooked
Mhm.
those controllers up, and I've been playing the heck out of Rock Band 3. But I have a excuse me, I have a
Have a
hacked
headache.
Xbox. My Xbox, my
Oh.
360 has the RGH mod chip,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, I found while I was searching for like custom songs and whatever for Rock Band 3,
Mm-hmm.
I found that there is a community made patch for Rock Band 3 called Rock Band 3 Deluxe, and it adds a bunch of cool modifiers to the game. Where you can, so I don't know if you're familiar with Rock Band, but Rock Band 1 and 2 had like drum fills, right? Where it had like these long open stretches where you could, right, and play and then deploy your overdrive.
Right.
And then, but Rock Band 3 changed it up where there was just a like a engorged like cymbal gem.
Mm-hmm.
and you just had to hit that and then it would open up, it would like turn on Rock Band, whatever. But this patch lets you enable the original drum fills or disable the thing and just deploy overdrive automatically. There's just a whole bunch of really cool features for it that you know, unlock new stuff. You can disable like big rock endings and songs, and you can do all kinds of stuff, and it's really, really nifty. So I've been playing the heck out of that. And the weirdest thing was like I have gone, you know, aside from when I just bought the drum kit and stuff, I had gone like, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years without playing any form of Rock Band whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I can play most songs on expert, or at least I could. I got the drum set, I got everything calibrated, and I can play almost every song and get like, even on like extremely difficult songs on expert, I can get like 4.5 or 5 stars just by just sight reading it. Unless it requires like a double bass pedal or whatever. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun. If you can't tell, I love Rock Band so much.
Sounds like it. Funny you mentioned the hacked Xbox because I just bought a hacked Xbox not that long ago, so I have been messing around with that, mostly just installing my. Well, you can't. I luckily don't think. No, you can see the shelf. Oh no, because no, I think I've been pulling a bunch of games out of it, so it looks terrible. Because I've been installing them locally to the hard drive of this hacked Xbox because I thought, oh, expanded whitelist for Xbox games, this is gonna be great. And I put in time splitters too, and then you can't play the game because the controller just looks at the floor,
Really?
which is an interesting bug I've never seen before. Apparently, it works for third-party controllers.
Weird.
But I mean, it also works for natively on Xbox One, so I'm not too pressed. But it is neat, just to see, because I didn't have the tools or time to hack my own Xbox, so shame on me. But my one big worry with my high school Xbox 360, one, the DVD drive was kind of already going a little bit, and two, as I've tried playing a couple things offline, disconnected from the Wi-Fi and stuff, I noticed like, oh, all of the Xbox Live games I bought are just trials now for whatever reason. Like if you had ever bought a game in the menu after a trial saying, would you like to buy this game? It just gets a key, and the key doesn't like validate if you're offline. So then you're stuck playing the trials. There's like the first Magic the Gathering game on Xbox where it's only a trial if I'm fully disconnected from the internet and Xbox Live. And at some point, all of that's going to get shut down eventually. So, you know, I'm just, and there's a couple of games on there exclusively, like the first, what was it, Vampire Dishwasher game, which was quite neat, and one of the big first Xbox Live arcade games, I think, to make it big, like have big in the press at least.
Yeah.
which has never been ported to any other systems and is only digital through Xbox 360. So at whatever point Xbox Live implodes, the bombs fall and we now live in Fallout, I'm not going to be able to play the full game on my high school 360. So I'm just covering my bases with the new slim one I've got.
Yeah.
It's also quieter.
Oh yeah, so much quieter. Dude, the one of my favorite games that's exclusive to Xbox Live Arcade on the 360 is Hydro Thunder Hurricane.
Oh yeah.
Oh dude, that's one of my favorite games ever made. And that's one of the things that I want Xenia on my Steam Deck for, is to play that game specifically. Right now, I think I looked it up a couple weeks ago, and it has like a lot of graphical glitches still. But like as soon as that's there, you better bet there's going to be a Xenia tutorial on the channel.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that was the one thing that got me to put Windows on a SD card for my Steam Deck, was because I wanted to use Xenia, because I have a copy of Marvel's Ultimate Alliance Gold Edition, which, for all those unaware, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, the first game, came out on multiple systems, but there was only one Gold Edition, and it only came to Xbox 360. What the Gold Edition was all the DLC baked onto the disc, sold to you, at whenever point of purchase. I mean, $20. But that had characters like Venom, Hulk, I think Wolverine, and Magneto. So just like having Hulk there, kind of a big deal, because you couldn't necessarily make the Avengers. Right? I think Hulk was one of the first Avengers in the comics. I don't remember, because I mean MCU. But and they've since delisted all these things digitally, so that shot up the price of the Gold Edition. And they have removed, of course, the Steam versions of the game quite a while ago, and no one told me that that was an option at any point, so I didn't buy those. So the only copies I have are my Xbox 360 copies, which don't play nicely on my Steam Deck, unfortunately. So, I got my actual systems here to be able to play those.
Yeah, the digital storefronts are like a catastrophe.
You want to jump into Deck Verified of the Week?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
All right, so starting off, we got an interesting one. Atomic Hearts, explore an alternative timeline with a Russian utopia where things are not all as they seem. BioShock with robots. This is an interesting one because it was one of the... I don't remember when it came out exactly.
The 20th of February.
Yeah, there we go. It was one of the bigger launches then. I don't think it came out to great reviews.
No.
I haven't seen that many of them. But it is interesting that what looks fairly quote unquote next gen and intensive is Deck Verified, which is quite cool. Oh, I'm surprised actually. 75 on Metacritic. So you know what? I might be wrong. Hey, if that's up your alley, go ahead and try it. Moving on.
The one thing about Atomic Hearts, I could be wrong about this, but I think it was funded by the Russian government. So,
I heard some talks about that. So, I would be, it's not my first game I'd play.
Yeah.
But moving on. Bus Simulator 2021. I didn't put in a description for this one because I'm garbage. Bus Simulator. You drive a bus, I guess, and it's 2021. I'm not trying to buy time as I look up the game for a description. It's drive up to 30 licensed buses by international manufacturers, including a double-decker and e-buses. Okay. Take your passengers to their destination safely and on time. Single player and multiplayer modes. What is the multiplayer? Do your multiplayer players just are guests on the bus? Like, what does that mean? I mean, that's gonna be an interesting roleplay server. I don't know.
Yeah. Or
But hey, it's deck verified.
what if everyone you're playing in the same server is just on like CB radios? 10-4 good,
Nice.
buddy.
I was thinking of like recreating oh god, what's the Keanu Reeves movie called?
Speed.
Where Speed, there we go. Recreating Speed in the game. Next, we've got Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's just this kind of dumb zombie game. You know, I've safe pass. I don't think anyone really into it at all. I think it had now when I looked at Steam. Oh yeah, it's just linking to CBD. I think it was rated playable. I don't know if it came out as playable or within the week it was released was marked as playable. But it is good to see get that green check mark. And again, in a sea of bad PC ports, this one came out and ran at about 30 on deck. I don't think it had terrible performance on deck. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't play it. But I think I've seen like a stable 30 across the board for most people playing on deck. So gotta love it. And last we've got Desta, The Memories Between, a cozy team-based tactics adventure from creators of Monument Valley. Encounter old friends and unlock awesome abilities, all while uncovering the mysteries of a strange and surreal world. So
you mentioned the creators of Monument Valley, and you've piqued my interest.
Yes, it was. So typically when I go through the Steam DB, check for deck verified, because you will find a lot of games, I'll say. But, you know, you can't just say every single one that's an asset flip or, you know, a bunch of porn games.
Yeah.
And typically I go by user reviews to see, that's my metric, but since we had fewer this time around, I checked on this one, and surprisingly, only 8 user reviews came out April. I mean, not that long ago, April 26th, it looks like.
Yeah.
But it's quite beautiful. So
yeah, it looks great.
Has some accolades. Day of the Devs official selection, 10th anniversary diversity award winner, the New York Video Game Awards nominated best mobile game. So you know, I'd imagine a port of a mobile game, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, remember Peggle was also like a mobile game in a sense. So, and since we had so few this time around, I kind of cheated. I kind of pulled a playable game instead of verified.
Oh,
it's Commander Keen. Surprisingly enough,
really?
Yeah, Commander Keen is now marked as playable, which I kind of figured would be because it's Commander Keen.
Is this Commander Keen like shipped through DOSBox?
I kind of want to say probably, but I have not confirmed.
Okay.
Keen. I might say in the description if it's
I don't see anything about DOSBox.
But it is the id Software Steam release of Commander Keen.
Nice.
So I cannot confirm if it uses DOSBox, but I would not be surprised if it's some kind of self-contained DOSBox emulation.
Yeah, so I actually had an experience with Doom, the original Doom on Steam. If you look at the actual Doom 1993 release on Steam, if you scroll down, it says unsupported. And it says, and it doesn't give any reasons why it's unsupported. So I said, screw that. And I forced Lux Torpeda. And you can get GZ Doom, you can get Chocolate Doom, you can get there's pretty much every source port and open source remake of the Doom engine. You can run this game using that. So I think I ended up with GZ Doom. It was the one that had the features that I wanted the most. So, highly recommend that.
It's pretty awesome that we have those kind of tools just to, you know, find the best open source implementation of these older games and just get them to run so easily. I was looking at the Storm page for Doom 93 and then went down to the very bottom and saw log in with your Slayer Club account, and my eyes just glazed over. That was immediate.
Yikes.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't make me log into things. Please stop. It's doom.
Yes.
You play it on your PSP. You play it on your graphing calculator.
Yeah.
Stop doing these things.
Yeah.
Don't add shit to the game. It's already good.
Right. It's already perfect.
There's so many. It's been brought to so many different systems for so many reasons. Not because people really want to log into the Bethesda Club account system or anything. That's our smaller week. But again, we like to verify. We like to show off games that are deck verified to help show developer support for our beloved Steam Deck.
Yeah. Another game, just a quick shout out. It's playable on Steam Deck, and you can get an open source Luxtrapeta thing going on with it too. Is Roller Coaster Tycoon 2.
Nice.
It's like $9 right now. So I'm a big fan of those kind of games. I don't know if you're aware of this, but this podcast here on the channel is also available in audio form, exclusive to ViewSync members over on ViewSync. Now, ViewSync members, patrons, and YouTube members get access to the audio podcast. ViewSync Premium is still available for sale right now over at the website. I think it's 20% off. You can use the link in the description to sign up and get 20% off. If you're a patron or a YouTube member and you don't have access to a ViewSync account, send me an email, gardiner@heavyelement.io, and I'll get you set up.
So fun. Speaking of fun, Dead by Daylight is finally playable on Steam Deck. They listened to me. I am crediting myself as the sole reason why this came to Steam Deck. It was me the whole time.
I did that meme wrong. I completely agree. It was all you.
So yes, this is not the first time. Okay, Kat, cool story. This is not the first time that Dead by Daylight has been working on Steam Deck. I've seen reports that the Epic version, for whatever reason, would work on Steam Deck. There was one day where you could boot up and kind of get into a match on the Steam Deck, but then that no longer worked. Steam Deck HQ received email confirmation from the PR of the developers, Behavior Interactive, saying, yes, this is the intended outcome, is that the Steam Deck is supported. It makes sense, as Meet Your Maker, the recently published game, is Steam Deck verified at launch. So this is clearly something that they want to support. And Dead by Daylight is the 28th most played multiplayer game on Steam. Well, not even multiplayer, just game on Steam. With a 24, as of writing my document, 24-hour peak of 37,914 players, and an all-time peak of 105,052 players. So it is quite a big game. It's huge for my group of friends. They absolutely love it, and my one friend, Nathan, has over 1,000 hours, and he's only missing 2 achievements in that game. And if you know, Dead by Daylight has, I think, I don't know, like nearly 200 achievements.
Wow.
The man's insane.
That's wild.
221 achievements, and he's missing 2 of them.
Damn. What's your most played game on Steam? Have we talked about that?
Oh no, we have not.
Ranked by playtime, my most played game on Steam is Spelunky with 98 hours.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then it's A-Sprite with 62, and then Spelunky 2 at 50. Then it's BioShock Infinite at 47, Portal 2 at 40, Towerfall Ascension, the first multiplayer game on this list, at 34, and then 28 hours in City Skylines.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I don't play a lot of games, but I love it.
No. Not a real gamer, guys.
I'm not, guys.
You want to take a rough stab at what you think my most played game is?
I'm gonna guess Dead by Daylight's in there somewhere in the
It
top 5.
is. Well, actually, I can go back to my library. I've played 18.6 hours of Dead by Daylight.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's nowhere near the top. The top is actually Warframe at 365 hours.
Wow.
I have not played Warframe in a long time. I know it just got the was it the Duvary Paradox or something? It is the one very long awaited update, and I have thought about jumping back into it at some point. I've really enjoyed it, and it works on Linux and Steam Deck. But I don't know. I kind of get I've played enough of it maybe, but I might jump back in at some point. Followed up by Skyrim at 286. I have never beat that game. Then Fallout New Vegas 170. I've never beat that game. Fallout 4 160. I've never beat that game. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 121 hours. I have beat that game. I don't know why those are like the most played. Although Dragon Age is shortly after at 69. Nice. Hours. Dragon Age Origins, let me say. And the first multiplayer game, I believe, well, I mean, you can count Warframe, but the first multiplayer game is Halo Infinite at 57 hours.
Wow.
So, and that's basically all within the first 2 weeks of it launching.
Yeah.
Because I fell off hard from that game. So if they can, I don't know, if Forge really revigorates it, rejuvenates it in some way, I might jump back in. But now that the Master Chief Collection is working on Linux and Steam Deck, I kind of have less of a reason to get back into it.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. That brings us to over 9,000 playable and verified games. I'm going to go ahead and cue the Vegeta meme right now.
It's over 9,000!
I think what did we launch at? It was 3,000 playable games at the launch a little over a year ago. I think we're over a year at this point. It was February.
It was late February. Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on. You talk. I gotta get my cat out of my office. Apparently.
Okay. So we have since the launch of the game, or since the launch of the console, we've had about 6,000 games added to the verified program. While it's not necessarily a flawless system, Deck Verified does provide some level of like compatibility metric for like the average person. You know, and none of this is counting like the Luxtrapeta or any of like the GE Proton or other Proton releases or anything like that. But it is nice to see, and it gives developers like a target, sort of like a baseline of like, if you want your game to work on Steam Deck, it's got to meet these criteria. And you know, it's an interesting system. It definitely needs some more work, but it has been nice to see it evolve over time. Because when the Steam Deck first launched, it was like, just get as many games verified as possible, and now it's like we get a handful. We get like 30 or 50 a month, maybe. It could be up to like 100 or something. But yeah, we're been slowly making progress.
They've been doing a good job of getting bigger titles verified, like Resident Evil Remake and Atomic Hearts. We had Plague Tale Instance, or Plague Tale Requiem. Requiem. Last week, along with Grounded. You know, some big headliner kind of games to bring people in, but you also have the smaller games as we've mentioned. And like you said, even though there are games that are unsupported or unknown, doesn't mean it doesn't work if you want to spend the time tinkering. Like Cyberpunk was playable and one of the top played games on the deck for some time before it actually became rated as playable, I think. I don't know if it has a verified rating or not.
I thought it was verified and it had been playable.
Oh, yes, that's right. I remember covering the news of that. Yes, it was verified. Yes. So, but well before that, people had been playing on the Steam Deck with Cyberpunk, which is quite cool.
One thing also is that they're not just like verifying and you know ranking games like this for like existing ones. Like they're trying to coincide rankings with any developer or publisher who wants their game to be verified at launch, and they're working to get that out. Not only just to make the game to give it like that badge, but also like they're pushing Proton and SteamOS updates alongside the release of the game so that it works at day one, which is really, really cool to see.
Again, big callback, Elden Ring. Valve did a lot of work to make sure that was working on Steam Deck day one. And it paid off. So, and you've got Valve doing some work on like the EA app launcher, breaking every time. Every Proton release, it's like increased compatibility or fix something wrong with the EA app, and it's like, okay, now EA. EA's basically doing this just to grief people at this point. Like that's what it is. I just want to play Burnout Paradise Remastered on my Steam Deck.
Agreed.
Let me do it. Should not be this hard. But EA hates all of us. I almost want to say, so some people wish that the verified badge was more like a Nintendo seal of quality sort of deal of this, instead of it's playable and works good enough on Steam Deck. I would call that playable rather than good enough. I'd like to think Valve shoots for works well on deck as verified. They want is just a seamless experience with that verified. And looking at the wording of it, it would sound like it's seamless. There shouldn't be any kind of text pop-ups where you need to bring up a keyboard. I think it cites that it shouldn't have any third-party launchers to be verified. Then it's only playable at that point. I would say like, oh man, I think Valve should just take away any kind of rating of playable verified if you include a really shitty third-party launcher. But we all know EA doesn't give a shit. They would put 2 if they could in there. It wouldn't stop them at all.
If they thought they could make money, they'd put 6 at the beginning.
If they got a deal with Denuvo, they'll make. God, it's just. And again, with the state that Jedi Survivor came in, it really does like show that a lot of companies don't really care about the PC ports. Unfortunately, they don't care about. They'll stick in the worst software for launchers and make games like BioShock Infinite and BioShock Remastered completely broken because of that 2K launcher, or they'll just rush a game like Jedi Survivor so it meets the what was the 40th anniversary of Star Wars? I'm a bad fan. We recently just had a big milestone anniversary for Star Wars where I forgot the exact number. It's, even though it's not that like Nintendo seal of quality sort of definitely great experience, I think anyone that picks up a Steam Deck that isn't technically savvy and goes to the store and just follows this rating system of just sticking to verified, at least, I think are mostly going to have a good time. It's when you reach out to playable that can sometimes be a little problematic. And even when you have that verified rating doesn't mean it's going to work all the time. Again, we had Apex Legends get verified, and then suddenly players were getting banned on Linux. A couple of cases of the Steam Deck, but mostly just players on Linux. So it can change any day, but hopefully if it does become in a bad situation, either Valve or the developers will quickly fix whatever is going on.
One of the things that I think about when it comes to verified and playable games is like I tend to think of the Steam Deck as a separate platform from Steam that happens to have a subset of the Steam library. It's not like I'm buying the Steam Deck as my PC and I'm going to play all the same games on my Steam Deck that I play on my computer. To me, in my mind, that's not a helpful way to think about the Steam Deck. I think about it as a as a subset of Steam, right? So it's like any game that has like a verified or playable rank, that's the library that's available for the Steam Deck, right? And then if you're the kind of PC gamer who likes to tinker, then then you can get things working, play different games. I am the kind of I actually find it more fun to like tinker and get like games that are unsupported working, like Doom or whatever, Lux Torpeda or OpenRCT2 or any of that stuff, because that's what I think is fun. Like I find that quite satisfying. But when I see lots of comments where it's like only 20% of the games I own on Steam can work on the Steam Deck,
I don't believe those people.
No, they're wrong. Well, if you just look at the raw numbers, there's like 50,000 games on Steam, and there's like 9,000 games that have either a playable or a verified rank. The rest of them, the vast majority of the difference there are games that have just not been played or tested yet. So it's like, when you look at the raw numbers like that, you can present it in that way, but it's not it's disingenuous to present it that way. But
and that's one of the again with the ROG Ally, we're seeing a lot of people be like, oh, and the compatibility is going to be so much better. I mean, I think the compatibility is getting better and better with the Steam Deck, and typically compatibility when it comes to single player games is mostly just there. Like there's very few, again, it's third party launchers that have compatibility issues and offline issues. If you use the EA app like Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order, we've seen a lot of posts of people saying, what the fuck? I can't play my single player game offline.
Yeah.
That's not going to be fixed with a Windows handheld. You're going to run into that too. And it's going to become more and more public if the ROG Ally is mainstream, I guess.
Yeah.
But
there's two things to think about when it comes to support for all your games on the ROG Ally. Like the biggest one is that unless you're playing your Ally sitting at a desk with a computer screen connected to it and a mouse and keyboard, you can't play all your games on the ROG Ally. Physically, it is not designed the same way as a Steam Deck, where you have two trackpads that you can map whatever the heck you need to. You can like fully reconfigure everything on the Steam Deck, and you have a mouse analog, right?
Right.
And you can play those games using the trackpads. You can play Command and Conquer. You can play Age of Empires. You can play any of those titles. RCT2, SimCity, whatever. You can't do that on the Ally unless you are fine with touchscreen, which is probably not going to be ideal, and or mapping the mouse to the joystick, which sucks. Like it's unusable, especially for games like that.
Garbage. Yeah. That is a great point of, while like official compatibility is different, the inputs making a game more playable is also a form of compatibility. And for me, because I've been playing shooters on PC for long enough, I am garbage with a controller at this point, and I can't stand to play certain shooters on a controller. So if I'm limited without a trackpad and gyro with the Ally, to me, shooters become no longer compatible for my device, because I've got more ways of controlling it to get that fine-tuned aiming that I need, because I want a mouse and keyboard when I'm playing these games, and I don't have that handheld. So the Steam Deck fills that niche of at least getting closer to that with gyro and flick stick, trackpad aiming. So I've been getting better at figuring out what fits my needs with the Steam Deck to play those games. The Ally, I'd never get there, honestly.
Right. Yeah. The other thing with compatibility and the Ally is it's like, yes, you have access to like the Epic Store and whatever else, but like you have what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean, I was going to interrupt and say you have access to Epic Store with Heroic on Steam Deck.
Right, exactly. You have access to that way, which Heroic actually is a great interface to use.
Oh yeah.
Like Heroic lets you manage just like the Steam game over the game mode on the Steam Deck. It lets you manage like all the different compatibility tools. You can use Proton Up Qt to like install different compatibility tools, which is really simple. Like I know that like Linux and the Linux way of doing things is foreign to most people, especially because most people were raised, like inculcated basically into the Windows way of fighting Microsoft's will. Right. Like, I mean, you literally have to trick your computer into doing the things you want. And that's what Windows gamers are accustomed to. So then when they come over to the Linux side of gaming and they don't have to trick their PC, they can just change the setting. And even if that setting is like configured only in the CLI, they're like, oh, this is weird and foreign and I don't like it. And that makes it feel more difficult. But it's like everything is so much simpler. So like, even if you don't have like native, the native Epic Games store, you have all of these other options that provide an equally great experience to the native Steam Deck UI. And I just am a huge fan of the Steam Deck. And people who were saying that, like, people in the comments were saying like that I was coping, or I was like, I was like salty or whatever.
Taking all that copium.
Dude, yeah. And it's like, or people were saying like I'm a Steam Deck fanboy. And it's really like, I'm not a Steam Deck fanboy, right? I'm a Linux enthusiast. I'm a Linux zealot, right? And like literally no device that ships with Windows is going to be able to beat the Steam Deck to me. Like if the ROG Ally came with a Steam OS or a Chimera OS version, I would actually be somewhat excited for it. Like, and I would be far less skeptical of it at the very least. So I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. On that note,
moving on. All right. Valve releases top games of April. With Vampire Survivors beating out Elden Ring as the #1 top game, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That's just this tiny, I think it's $5 game, or $5 now. At the time I had bought it, it was $3 because it was early access. This tiny game beating out Elden Ring.
Oh yeah.
Which is hilarious, but also really speaks to how good Vampire Survivor is.
Yeah.
And it's also apparently getting an animated TV show, which is neat.
That is really cool.
Because I know I have not paid attention to any of the lore in there, but I would definitely watch Vampire Survivors. And Resident Evil Remake, very good to see that pop up in the list, speaking to how well it plays on deck. Dredge, very high up. Again, we love seeing that indie game get that much fanfare come out, and it lives up to that fanfare.
Yeah.
And then a lot that I'm seeing are these Western RPGs that Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim, Witcher, Red Dead Redemption. That's not quite an RPG, but we'll go with that. But these open Cyberpunk, that's the one I was looking for. These large scale games that aren't like, are graphically intensive, and they're still constantly in the top 10.
Yeah.
Which it's cool to see. Whenever I think of someone say, "Oh, the Steam Deck just isn't powerful enough. It's dead. It's going to be dead next year." Well, I mean, these are some of the top played games on Steam, and people are still enjoying them on the Steam Deck, it looks like. So I'm not too worried about the viability of the Steam Deck anytime soon.
No, especially when you consider how powerful it is for like indie games. Like, and you can play basically any indie game on the Steam Deck, and that's all that I care about is indie games.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, of the AAA games on here, I think I've played one.
Funny for me as a Fallout fan, Fallout 4 is in the top 20, whereas Fallout 76, not so much. Um, yeah, and it makes me more excited for. There was a big trailer, I think, quote unquote trailer, because it was like 20 minutes. I think it was just a walkthrough of gameplay of the Skywind. Um, it might be Skywind. It might be another Morrowind Skyrim team developing it. It could be, but I was assuming it was that was the one big project. No, I am correct. Skywind. Skywind put out a gameplay demo recently that looks amazing, which is Morrowind being rebuilt in the Skyrim engine. So it really modernizes it, because I don't know if you tried to go back to Morrowind any recently, but it's a little rough at times. Even for me, going back to Oblivion, little rough.
I don't know if you've ever played any Bethesda game recently, but they're all pretty rough.
hey, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I've played a lot of Bethesda games according to my Steam profile.
Yeah.
I'll look past all the rough edges there, certainly. For I have my misgivings about Fallout 4, some of Skyrim, certain aspects of these Bethesda RPGs, but at the same time, I do love the modding scene. I do love crafting my own narrative in my head at times. I downloaded a mod for Skyrim during one playthrough, which was just a journal. It was literally just a little book, and you open up a notepad essentially and type in a journal entry. And I would, during my play sessions, write journal entries as my character when I would be going through. So then I could later go back and read the journal entries, because it was a physical book in the game that my plan was to eventually finish up, put it in a bookshelf in whatever player home I have, and then I would just have these journals, and however many hours later of playing the game, I could just grab the book and read oh, this is the weird nonsense that I played in the game this time. That is going into such a direction that I don't think many people would go, but it's neat that I can do that.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, tabletop RPGs are for you.
I would say yes, and I jumped at the chance when my friend said, yeah, I'm gonna do some one shots on Monday, anyone want to join? And I just immediately jumped in that Discord server right away. Yeah. But sometimes all my friends aren't available, or I'm working my ass off all the time and I have no free time outside of when I should be sleeping. And so I play RPGs when no one else can play these tabletop games with me. So, absolutely, if I could, I'd be playing a lot more Dungeons and Dragons. In the meantime, I make Skyrim and other games like that work. I think Wildermyth is one that I need to dive more into. I've seen a lot of great stuff about it, and my friend has been trying to sell me on it. I do have it. I just haven't dived deeper into it.
Mm-hmm. I love tabletop RPGs. I can't play video game RPGs. I have because I'm accustomed to playing tabletop RPGs where I'm I can pretty much do anything that I could think of in the game and have the world react to me, versus in an RPG it feels very constricted.
Have you tried Divinity Original Sin 2 or Baldur's Gate 3?
No.
I think a lot of people, I've tried playing a little bit of it. I haven't gotten that far in it. Again, I bounce around to a lot of different games. I'm not good at sticking with games. But a lot of people have held up those games as the closest things you get to with Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
Of that real freedom to do whatever you want. I heard one example of, they were showing off Divinity Original Sin, the first one, at an E3 demo. The person demoing the game killed a very necessary NPC, and the Larian Studio guys showing off the game were there and just you weren't okay, well, all right, I guess. And I haven't tried all the different ways, but there's certainly a lot of storylines and good storylines in there. I know in Divinity Original Sin 2, there is this really interesting character. I think his name is Thane. He is an undead character that's really just like sarcastic, and I like that character. I want to see him more, so you can make him your playable character. And I think that's what I want to do with my real dive into the game. And I am so ready for Baldur's Gate 3 to come out of early access. I'm been dying for that to come out in early access.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do like a Star Trek or Star Wars RPG.
Yeah.
I've never done it, but I could.
Oh, yeah.
I could do either. I know I would be a great DM at either of those.
Yeah, I wanted to do a cyberpunk one, and also not necessarily Star Wars, because I know some of my friends don't like Star Wars too much. I can't imagine why. I love Star Wars, but more of like the Firefly slash Star. I'm not gonna say Star Trek. The making your way through the stars, kind of as a ragtag group. Maybe some mysticism, but when you get that close to mysticism, I think my friends are gonna argue, "Hey, why isn't this a D&D 5e system?"
Right.
It's like, no, Starfinder's great. Come on, guys. Cyberpunk Red's really good. Come on, please stop. Please stop begging me to use 5e.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Moving on to Humble Bundle Choice for May got announced. I typically like to do these big deep dive articles because I'm going to be honest, I do find leaks of the games and I write them ahead of time, assuming they're correct, and they've been correct all the time. I just didn't do it this time because I forgot.
And you've been busy.
I've been really busy. My work's been picking up, so it's been harder to have the energy to do a lot of stuff when I get home and things. But this time around, I'm not super crazy about the selection. We'll walk through the selection real quick. Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate. I'm not a huge Warhammer fan. But it does not look like a bad game. I think it's had some good ratings. If you are a Warhammer fan, might be for you.
Every Warhammer game can be summed up with characters whose voices sound like this.
Right.
I just don't have any respect for that aesthetic.
Oh no. Turn-based tactical. Oh right. I think it's kind of like in the sense of an XCOM-esque game. Mostly positive. I think if again you are in that genre of, or if you're into Warhammer 40k and you're like XCOM, I don't think that's a bad game. I think you're pretty well satisfied there. Spiritfarer Farewell Edition, great game, fantastic game. Watched my partner play it. I still have to go through myself. Lovely, beautiful game, all about helping shepherd spirits through to the afterlife. It's very cute. It's very beautiful. I highly recommend it. Bendy and the Dark Rival. I cannot get behind these games. My partner really wanted to play Bendy and the Ink Machine. I said, okay, yeah, sure. And I was the one that was playing through it because the game ran into some bugs that we got to the final boss, and then I died and spawned outside of the room, and I could not continue and had to restart the entire game. I have 12 hours into that game, which only takes maybe 3 or 4 hours to beat. And I was fucking done at a certain point. And then you have all of the merchandise, which when a game gets when you see game merchandise at just like a 5 and below right up in front, that's the point where I kind of roll my eyes at whatever franchise it is. No shade to Bendy and such. It just, and seeing the Dark Revival, which is a sequel, I just can't. I think it is an interesting setting and artwork. I don't think they stick the landing, unfortunately. And you can see some of the ratings on OpenCritic kind of match that in a way. I think they're both Bendy games are rated as fair. But hey, if that's your jam, cool. You're gonna love that.
Yeah.
Operation Tango. It is a 2-player co-op game all about spies and hacking. It is neat. It is kind of annoying that you would have. It's great if you have someone to play with, but if you don't, that makes this bundle a harder sell because this game is fully reliant on you having someone else to play with. So you can play with everyone else who gets the bundle, but your friends might not have this game. I do think there might be a coupon to get a second copy or something, but then you're buying an extra one. Windjammers 2 looks like a fantastic little indie game. I have not played either Windjammers, but it was on Game Pass. It looked cool. Might be a fun time. Building simulator. There's been so many different simulators in these Humble Bundle choices that I cannot, even if it's good, it can't be a selling point for me.
How about a video game playing simulator? Video game simulator playing simulator.
I mean, isn't that just like what, YouTuber simulator or something? Jeez, or streamer simulator or something, whatever. Here's another good one that I almost sold me on this bundle. Behind the Frame, The Finest Scenery. Very beautiful looking indie game. I believe it is a puzzle type. Let's see. Behind the Frame. It's currently on sale for 35% off on Steam, so it's $8.44. Normally it's $12.99, so that puts it just a little above the bundle, but it has an overwhelming positive rating. Yes, it is a story-rich puzzle game. Very beautiful art style. I need to pick that up at some point, but I do not think it'll be in this month for me with this bundle. And then The Invisible Hand, which is a comedic stock simulator game where you're supposed to manipulate the stock market. I do think it has a positive rating. I can't get behind it because I hate that sort of shit. Stock marketed stuff. I just don't care. If I wanted to gamble, I would play Luigi's Casino in Super Mario 64 DS. There is an demo out on Steam, so you can play that and see if that speaks to you, and if it does, might sell you a little bit. But it is currently only $5 on Steam, so again, harder sell there. And as I was seeing in the r/humble bundles subreddit for kind of like gauging the waters, not a ton of people are super happy with this bundle. I paused my subscription this month. I wasn't sold. I already have Spiritfarer, so when you take that out of the mix, it's not really for me. You know, every so often we have these months that just aren't quite winners. No shade on any of the games in there. I don't want to hate on any of those. Just some of those are harder sells, especially when you can get those at decent discounts. And also harder sells when they stick in games that are reliant on multiplayer and such. There is, though, a Humble Bundle Feel the Rhythm bundle currently going on. I think it is 18 for all said and done. And it would be 7 games. No Straight Roads, Encore Edition, Beat Hazard 3, Trombone Champ. I've already sold a couple of people there.
That's super
Soundfall, Melodies, Escape 2, Project. Arthemia. I'm dyslexic. Give me a break. Don't spell your games like this because you hate me apparently. Disaster Band. I would say that's $16 for 7 games. When you put those two together, I think more people are gonna be leaning towards the Feel the Rhythm bundle than the April. No, we're talking May. The May Humble Bundle choice. We're also getting dangerously close to spring sales, so when you factor that in, Guardians of the Galaxy right now, as of recording, is like $18. Um, so I'm waiting to see what we get next month. I still do like the service to a certain extent. I have some misgivings with certain things,
Yeah.
but that's my take.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way. I skipped this month too, even though I had a 12-month streak.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah. Yeah, I almost had that 20% off discount and then wiped it all out with this.
Yeah.
But hey,
you got to send IGN a message too.
I don't need every game under the sun. I already have way too many games.
Yeah.
I think that brings us into the major stories. Gardner, why don't you lead us off with Steam input on desktop overlay gets an overhaul?
Yeah, so this is pretty exciting. I talked about this in my news video as of recording yesterday, but dude, so I'm really excited about this. The latest, or I guess the Monday Steam client beta mentioned that virtual menus are now supported in the desktop overlay. Which was never the case before. So if you're not familiar with the virtual menus, you can map the trackpad on the Steam Deck to bring up a menu on screen, and that you can then select an item using the trackpad from that menu. You can also map it to any joystick, even like the D-pads, I think. And basically it lets you create virtual inputs. So if you're playing like an RPG that requires like F button, like the function buttons or anything like that, you can map those function buttons. You can give each one icons so that like instead of it being like F12, you can have like a quick save icon, and then you can quick save, right? So essentially what happened, this only worked for Steam input if you were in big picture mode or in game mode on the Steam Deck. But with this new Steam overlay for desktop and with the transition of the Steam desktop client kind of like making the Steam UI experience like cohesive across all the different platforms, including VR, including game mode and big picture mode and desktop. All of these are enabling virtual inputs. And if you boot a game using desktop mode and you have the new Steam overlay, you actually have access to the exact same Steam input configurator that you get in big picture mode in game mode. And I think it's critical to think of game mode and big picture mode as two separate things. I mean, they're using the same kind of libraries, but game mode is using the like Steam OS compositor to composite things rather than like injecting the game with the Steam overlay, which is an entirely separate thing. So it's really important to think of these as separate. But what this does do is it means that you can now configure controller inputs, virtual menus, Steam input across all the different user interfaces that Steam has. And that's really exciting because it means that like no matter how you boot the game, if it's desktop, if it's big picture mode, you get all the same like incredible rich Steam input options that you get from game mode. And I'm super stoked about that. Have you used virtual menus?
So I didn't use them a ton, and then with EmuDeck, if you select the EmuDeck defaults in the controller layout for these emulators, a lot of them have virtual menus pre-made.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started using those virtual menus for EmuDeck, I was like, oh, wow, this is incredibly useful. And I've never known this was a thing. So I started using that when making some of the games that I've struggled to put on controller. Like for whatever reason, Halo, I had a really hard time getting the exact right controls for me on deck. Yeah. And so I made a couple of virtual menus of just like cycling through grenade types, toggling the less used functions like night visor and stuff for ODST, the loadout function in Reach, so that I could free up all the other areas of the Steam Deck for more used functions, or to complicate it less. So I know, okay, so the back buttons are my jump and crouch. I don't need to think real hard on which ones these are.
Yeah.
Because when you get into the less used, more complex button inputs, having a visual indicator of what that is really useful.
Yeah.
So I don't have to like guess through and stumble. What did I set these controls? Because the game is not going to know what I've set these to, because it thinks it's just the normal like button key bindings.
Right. Yeah. Emily, I helped her configure Dragon Age Origins to use a virtual menu for like a lot of different options, including quick save and quick load and stuff. And also like one of the other cool things that we did with Dragon Age Origins was it uses like the right mouse button and then you drag to turn the camera. And but she wanted to just use the joystick to control the camera. So I made it so that when you were touching the thumbstick, it right clicks. And then you can just use the joystick and boom.
That's clever.
That saved her. Like this is the power of Steam Input. And so one of the things that I was thinking about with this new transition here is like, how useful is Steam Input going to be for people who are playing in desktop mode? I mean, yes, if you have a controller connected, cool. That's going to save you some time or whatever. And save you some headache of like, oh, I booted the game using desktop, right? And then you have to boot whatever into big picture mode to configure your controller. You don't have to do that anymore. But I'm really hoping, and I'm letting my hope get the best of me here, that this is like step number 4 towards a new Steam controller.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Steam controller 2.0. My God, if Valve could come out with Steam controller 2.0 with feature parity with the Steam Deck, boy, I would be the happiest boy in the world.
Yeah. I fell in love with the Steam controller probably too late. It's a little too plasticky in my mind, but the functions are there. Yeah. And it was really neat to see where this is going. I do like the controllers we have, like the dual sense of what tech is built in there, touchpad. Again, for me, gyro aiming, I had fine tuning. I mapped to just moving my thumb onto the touchpad through Steam Input. That makes it much more usable. But there's still things missing. Like I can't do the same. You can do virtual menus with the DualSense, I believe, and you can do touch regions with this.
Yeah.
You still just don't have the touch sensitivity, which is really useful. As you exampled with Dragon Age Origins, for me, it's being able to have that gyro of just touching the stick. So I can reset by taking my thumb off and putting my controller where it's comfortable. Where that frees up a lot of space on the controller to do other things.
Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot. Like, I don't think this is necessarily the best D-pad in the world. I'm not going to play Super Meat Boy with it.
No.
I think hopefully Valve can maybe see that we're willing to spend a little bit more money and get a little better build quality into this. Use less shiny plastic, the more solid build to it. I mean, this is still a good controller. I just think
this is a good controller for a very specific type of game, or maybe two different genres. This is good for any PC game that you want to play 10 feet away from the screen. Like this, I have played more than half of all of the time that I've spent like with city simulators using the Steam controller.
And that
in my
makes
living
sense.
room. It's so
Right.
it's very comfortable, and you know, it's I think this is actually more comfortable than the Steam Deck for doing that kind of like gameplay. Um, and it's also good if you want to play like old like boomer shooters, right? Like
Right.
and when I say boomer shooters, I mean like Half-Life 2 and before, right?
Mm.
Like this is good for that because you can like configure the mouse for this trackpad and WASD for the thumbstick, and then you can play the whole game that way, and it's really really nice. In fact, if you play Half-Life 2 with the Steam controller, it feels great. It gives it a whole new feeling. The problem is if you play modern games that expect a controller and you do use the Steam controller, it doesn't often work very well, and you also end up like having to like have this whole abstraction layer in your head of like what key is bound to which button on the controller, and that's where
Right.
the Steam controller really fails. So with the Steam Deck, they have addressed a lot of this stuff, and so hopefully going forward they can get more games on board supporting a Steam controller too, having native Steam input built into games. That's where I'm really excited about the future of this going on.
And we've come a long way with ergonomics, honestly. Like the DualSense, again, I keep harping on the DualSense, but it really is because I personally have not liked Sony's PlayStation controllers before. The ergonomics weren't great, even with, for me, the DualShock, I believe DualShock 4.
Yeah.
We made some progress, but it's still not the best feeling to me. This kind of claw grip
Yeah.
in a way. The DualSense feels more relaxed, a little less claw grip. But yeah, even then, like even with this sort of touchpad surface, you can't, like you said, do those city builder games with this. It's just not enough.
Right.
So you get a lot of mileage out of this controller with Steam input. It could just be a little bit better. So if Steam could make, and for $80, I think Valve could make a lot for a controller at $80. It'd be really neat if they could make it. I just said like we're willing to spend more to make it a little bit more premium. I think there maybe is a middle ground there, somewhere between, or I think this is 70 actually, $70. So 55, 60. Just drop it a little bit, make it a little easier with all these games coming out at $70 and
Yeah.
not being worth that $70.
Right.
I now I've got a bunch of controllers in my lap. Yeah, it's I would like to see Valve's take on the next controller. I think that's going to go a long way to making we've got the dock, kind of getting that into the public knowledge of, hey, here's the Steam Deck. It's similar to a Switch of playing big games handheld, but you can also plug it into a TV, because they've made this better of just plugging into a TV and it just working. The aspect ratio is a little different if you just plug it into a TV, but it still works. I've not had many issues at all with that. Just popping into my TV and booting up the DualSense controller is a pretty good experience. So having hey, this officially works with the Steam Deck, and then showing that off in a commercial where it's much like the Switch announcement trailer, where you see all these people like, I'm hip and trendy, and I'm gonna go to a rooftop like hipster IPA party or some shit, and I'm gonna bring my Switch too, because that's what people do.
Yeah.
That was the funny one to me, was when they built an airplane little exhibit for people to try the Switch in. That's not realistic. Let's be honest. Like you have to have some really annoying person sit right next to you if you're gonna get that real experience. And the kin like kicking the back of your seat.
Yeah.
So that you could be like, oh, this almost distracts to how terrible flying is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see Valve's next take on a Steam controller. I think there's a cult following, and Steam Controller 2 might not be a cult following. Maybe it'll be just a following.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I'll say about it is that all it needs to be is a Steam Deck without a screen.
Oh yeah.
That's all it needs to be. Like, and it would be absolutely perfect. So that's all I want from a Steam Controller 2. Like, is just this big. And I mean, it would kind of look like Joy-Cons in the grip, right? Like that's what it would look like. And I think that people are ready for that. I would be. I'm dead ready for that.
Moving on, speaking of Joy-Cons in a grip, because I've got to make everything a segue when we're talking, I guess. Tears of the Kingdom leaks 10 days early. Yay. Oh God, the humanity. The tears I have of these leaks.
Dude, the comments on my video talking about how, oh man, people are like, Nintendo's gonna take this down. Yeah, on what grounds? I literally censored the screenshot. So like,
you did.
Yes, where there was Tears of the Kingdom running on a Steam Deck, censored, and then I made a Zelda reference. It's dangerous to show Nintendo software running in emulation. Take a censored screenshot instead. Like,
yeah. I was trying to get screen grabs of download the pictures for these Reddit posts I was seeing of people reporting, hey, it's running in Ryujinx. And because I was bouncing between, I couldn't finish the article before having to go to work. I got to work. I tried to pull up the post, immediately deleted by Reddit. The moderators were, this is the r/Steam Deck Reddit. The moderators were going to town. They were like on their A game, removing them as soon as they went up. At least with Metroid Prime Remastered, there were a couple hours before the post got taken down. This was like minutes these posts were being taken down. And, you know, I don't blame them because Nintendo recently sent a cease and desist to the devs of Lockpick RCM, which is a tool developed, a homebrew application developed for the Switch to be able to dump your own keys of the Switch that you legally bought with your own money into files so you can emulate the games that you legally bought with your own money. And without that tool, people are just going to go and pirate these things. Which is, Nintendo is, instead of, they're just full on fighting emulation, full stop. They don't care who's in the crossfire. They don't care if they're hurting their community. That upload multiplayer mod of Breath of the Wild with Point Crow, or all these fan games, or just like Smash tournaments during COVID, where you can't have in-person games of Melee. However, these really talented devs have created Slippy, where you can play Melee online with rollback code. It's, again, like Nintendo is ridiculous when it comes to their own community. But jumping back into Tears of the Kingdom, there's no DRM, like some people have speculated. I had said, like, hey, Denuvo is talking a big game about bringing their own weird anti-emulation software to the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo is being very, trying to go after a lot of these different sites relating.
I have a theory. What if the leaked version of this game is cracked? Or because you know that there have been several versions of games that shipped with Denuvo that also like included Denuvo free binaries, right? You've heard about this, right? I don't remember what game it was, but there was at least one game that had a Denuvo free binary that was included with the released game. And then the community was like, oh, let's just use this instead. And then once the devs removed it from the game, the community was like, oh, we're going to preserve this. What if this is like a development build that doesn't have Denuvo included, and then it ships with Denuvo and it performs worse on the Switch than it does on the Steam Deck at launch, dude?
I am going to deflate your bubble. Where we were seeing these come up from originally was these eBay listings of physical copies of Tears of the
Oh,
Kingdom.
was it? Okay.
Yes. So you saw someone list this for around like $70, 60 or $70, the actual retail price of the game, or maybe just like also covering the shipping cost. And then once that sold in about 2 seconds, I think the seller started to put two and two together of like, oh, this is what people actually want. This next one's $300. Someone priced it at like $1,000. So clearly something has happened where a box fell off a truck somewhere, or some retailer sold copies too early or something. And then whoever bought these up, eventually someone bought it and dumped it. So I highly suspect that this is the retail copy. This is the full copy,
Okay.
minus any day one patches and such from Nintendo. I don't think that's not typically our MO, so I would assume that this is the most like complete state it's going to be, outside of a patch that comes a month or so later to address probably some performance issues. Because yes, we have seen reports from Kotaku stating that during a hands-on impressions with press, they were seeing some areas of slowdown, more so than Breath of the Wild. Namely with the ultra hand function, which is the manipulation of objects in the world and sticking together and such. I think the sticking together is specifically the fuse function, and ultra hand is like picking up this giant tree log. When you start interacting with those complicated objects, I think that's where you see the slowdown. It would not surprise me if players got overzealous with that function and started trying to build like Gundams in Tears of the Kingdom. Please do that. I want to see it. I think when you get that far into construction and such, the game is going to start chugging. I think sticking too many objects to too many things is going to cause problems.
Okay. Well, you've ruined my fantasy of.
I know. I'm sorry. I had to, being the one reporting on these, I had to put that out there and kill everyone's dreams.
All right. Shucks.
Yeah. I would hope that this is going to be in a playable state when it comes to Switch on native hardware. Whether or not it's playable on the Steam Deck at launch, we're less than 10 days out. We're recording on a Saturday. We're 6 days out right now. 6 days out, having it at least hitting 15 to 20 frames in Ryujinx, I think was reported. Yuzu, I think someone had said OpenGL was where they were getting it to come up, but it wasn't really playing. Just having it play in any regard, great. I am pretty sure with Yuzu, they've made some good progress with Breath of the Wild, seeing like 50% increase in performance with recent early access builds. And I tried it myself, and I was playing on my main system with a 6700 XT and a 5900X CPU. I was getting around, dropping below 30 at certain times at 1440p. So when I updated, I got very stable 30 on my main system. I have not tested on my Steam Deck because I just used the CMU to emulate the Wii U version at 40 FPS. I don't particularly want to spend the time screwing around with that until we get to Tears of the Kingdom, where I will try my best to see if I can get it to run on my Steam Deck. I most likely am not going to be super successful and fall back to my Switch for the first time since the Steam Deck has come out. Actually, I've not touched the Switch for a very long time.
Yeah. I honestly will not be playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
I'm not going to. Nintendo just does not deserve my money, and I don't condone piracy, so I won't do it. With that said, if I were to be playing that game, I would buy a physical copy of it
Mm-hmm.
and then never open the box and just, or well, I guess I would have to because I'd have to.
You had to
dump it. But I mean, yeah,
you'd never play it on the Switch.
I would never play it on the Switch. I'd put it in and dump it and then play it on my Steam Deck because screw Nintendo.
Even if I can't,
Nintendo is so evil. Oh my god.
I have so many. I just again love the games. I hate the company. They've been incredibly anti-consumer. Even if I get the game, if it runs well enough, I'll play it on my desktop system just to get it a little bit more graphically sound. Because going back and revisiting Breath of the Wild on the Switch, it has some issues in terms of anti-aliasing and just it performs surprisingly well and looks, again, art style looks great, but after emulating it and seeing it in 4K 1440p whatever frame rate, it just to me isn't as good of an experience, and is wanting it at a higher resolution, higher FPS, fall into the bigger numbers better crowd, kind of a little bit. But I think I'm in the camp that I legally paid for this game. I, for whatever reason, prefer it in this function, this way of enjoying it, where it could be a different area where someone is playing an FPS and the FOV is so small that it makes them sick to play, and there's no setting in the game to increase the field of view.
Yeah.
That person should be allowed to modify the game to make it in a playable state for them so that they don't get sick. That's again, I can still play it on the Switch. It's not an accessibility thing for me, but also Nintendo doesn't have an accessibility controller like Microsoft with their accessibility Xbox controller, which I am not sure how well it works on PC. I would wager a guess it does. And if you are someone that has more accessibility issues with controllers, that is an option that would be there with emulators, I would hope. I have not verified myself, but I would imagine, again, Nintendo does not have accessibility controllers that I know of. You would have to be looking at a third-party solution, which is, I see a lot of contraptions that go over top of controllers to make them more accessible. Gardiner, where can they find you?
You can find me right here on YouTube or on ViewSync, depending on where you're consuming this. You can also head over to subscribe2.me to find other links to my things on social media. How about you, Jackson? Where can people find you online?
They can find me writing ever so often on ViewSync, all these articles and news about the Steam Deck and whatnot. And when I'm not on ViewSync, I'm pretty much only on Mastodon. You can find me, Jack7, JAXSEVEN at tech.lgbt.
Nice. Nailed it.
I nailed it that time. Finally, it took 6 episodes. I think we're on episode 6. 6 episodes. That's where you can find me. It's been surreal to see every few people kind of trickle into my follows ever since starting this podcast. Like, oh man, people watch this. Oh man, people watch and they want to see what I say. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Why would you want to ever do that?
It's nice. It's nice to have people following you.
Thanks for the support.
I'm hoping I'm going to try and get even more people to follow you. How's that sound?
Oh God. Oh, jeez. Please don't follow me. Anyways, I think that does it for us.
Yeah.
So I think that's a wrap on the podcast. A little later this week, we'll see if everything hits the fan next week. See if there's any crazy news. I'm sure as we get closer to Tears of the Kingdom, there's going to be all sorts of crazy Nintendo news, all sorts of crazy emulation news. Yeah. So we will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.